Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 24th of November, comes to you from London. It was Thanksgiving in the US yesterday, so the markets are pretty quiet today, with a lot of people taking the Friday off in between the Thursday and the weekend. So I'm going to spend more time on energy, European energy, especially today, because we'll have more people at the desks and just to put a bit more focus on it. I start with Bitcoin. Just interestingly here, we're just nudging new highs on Bitcoin. This is the short-term chart. We see here the targets on the short term. These targets to 38,600 roughly given over the last few weeks. These targets were given and met. The downside targets, this one actually happened faster than the 2-to-1 slope. So I'm just using a slope of 2-to-1. That means the unit is 0.1%. That means every 2 hours we will move 0.1%. That's the projection of the targets. You can change that to curve fit the data if you wish, but I like to see whether we're going faster or slower. And at the moment we're going a bit faster than this target, which is a further 1.8% higher. If you're trading Bitcoin, you want to be looking at the targets on the 1-minute chart. So really quite key there. This is the daily chart. And again, this is really interesting because we've given a target of 61,800, and that's all very well having a target, but when will it be met? And it's saying November next year. So if you're really banking on a 63% upside on Bitcoin, the current projection is by November next year. A pretty good upside if that does happen. But what we do notice is that these previous upside targets took longer. This is the 2-to-1 slope again. That means 0.5% every 2 days. If you like, 1% every 4 days. That's the target projection. And interestingly, we're just not really running as fast as those targets, which suggests that November next year might just be a little bit optimistic. We've just got to watch the price progress along the track and see whether we're actually, if it's happening faster or slower, and watch for any new little downside targets kicking in like we saw here. So that's the situation on Bitcoin. But let's just have a look. I'm not going to look at markets today. I'll look at those yesterday and I'll look at those again on Monday. Not much change going on. But if we look at gold, this is an interesting one. Here we see on gold, we've got this upside thrust on the daily. And let's just home in on that chart. Upside thrust on the daily. Again, the downside was not quite met, which is bullish. We're back above the daily cloud, which tells us from a trend filter perspective that's bullish. And so remember to look at my cloud charts book on Amazon if you want to understand the clouds more clearly. And here we see that these upside targets took a little bit longer too. So gold, we've got a target of 2,400 if we activate, which means breaking above the little high that we saw just a couple of weeks ago at around 2012, 2015. We break higher than that, we're just struggling at the 2000 level at the moment. We're at 1995. We break above that 2012 and hold that for a day, then we have a new upside target. And that starts to look more and more bullish for gold. So that's really quite interesting there. And of course, we can look at the long-term chart for gold. We have got an activated upside target here, but this one would activate. That target would move along. The orange tells us, it's like an orange light on the traffic lights. That tells us that we've got to wait for that to happen. Then we'll get a green target, and that target is much, much higher. But again, it will be a long time away. So it's just understanding the different time frames. That's the long term, this is medium term, and short term. So short term on gold, this is the 60-minute chart. Here we've got a little downside target. Not activated. If we move below the low that we saw on the 22nd on Wednesday, if we move below that low, that would activate the downside target back to 1960. If we break this targets here on the daily chart, we saw that. We may get another thrust giving us another target. Equally, if you're trading gold, you might want to watch the 1-minute charts. So let's look at the energy mix. So first of all, I'm going to look at Brent Crude. A really interesting picture here. So we'll start by looking at the daily chart. And so this is medium term. These targets, I've actually got my system configured to just show me the last 10 targets. So you can have more targets on there to look back historically, but I'm really just interested in what's going on now. We are below the cloud. That's the first thing to notice. We are below the cloud and we've got these downside targets dominating. Notice how this one to 72.55 was given back at 83.40. That was given and actually met much, much more quickly. So these downsides can occur faster than what the targets are projecting. These ones were pretty good. We've got another one at 68 and 66.65. That's the level there. So that's really where we're looking to next. There's another one to 59. No point in worrying about the one to 59. while we've got these ones to the mid 60s, but it does just tell us we've got another selling thrust. So crude oil on the medium term chart, that's medium term daily, it's rollover adjusted so that we don't have any false thrusts. That's just telling us that it's a downside. But interestingly, if we look at the 60-minute chart, we're just seeing a little bit of upside here, 83, 60, 87, 90. Now, I'm not thinking about this 90 at the moment. It's this 83, 60. Can we break to new highs? We are just moving through the cloud. So we've got to resolve that the short term is looking quite good. The medium term is not looking great. And that's how you make the trading decisions on your time frame. Noting that these short-term moves are counter trend, so it's quite likely these targets will not be met because they're counter trend, and it will happen faster. So you've got to be quick because the counter trend moves tend to happen quite quickly. So that's what's happening with Brent Crude. Let's look at US NatGas. Similar picture here. Really great targets on the medium term upside, but we've had some new downside targets kicking in. So that's really interesting, and we're moving back below the cloud. If we look at that chart on US NatGas on a better time frame, we see here that we really are just now looking more to the downside. And again, if you're trading NatGas, you look at the 1 minute chart. Looking at the 60-minute chart, we see here how these downward tracks over the last few weeks have all sort of been met. So the downside is dominating. Got a new little upside one. We're trying to move through the cloud here. This is a 60-minute chart, so it's actually marked as short term. You see here short term, and we are just looking to try and break that trend, but you'd have to favor that downward track at the moment. Medium term, weeks and months ahead, these targets are looking quite promising. It'll be all about the winter, of course. Looking at emissions, really quite interesting here. If you look at the emissions chart, we'll start by looking at the daily. We had these upside targets looking really promising for emissions, but we roll back through the cloud, and these downside ones are the ones that are dominating at the moment. We've got a downside target that was given at 86 to 72, another one to 68. For the moment, short term, and we're waiting for this orange one to activate to 60. But the point is that the more recent targets are to the downside. It's not looking great for emissions. So really, we're starting to not think about these targets because these are the new dominant targets kicking in. So that's really quite key there. If we look at the short term, this is the 60-minute chart. Notice how these downside targets were given and met. So that's bearish confirmation. We tried to recover. We've come back below the cloud. We're testing this support level at 75. We've held that. If we fall through that, notice how this target 74.70 was given back at 78. That's where we got to. And now we've got a little upside target. Can it be met? Now, at the moment, we are below the cloud, so I'm not putting a lot of weight on that. Again, if you're trading carbon, you want to be looking at the 1 minute chart. A quick look at TTF. Again, we got the similar picture here. Good upside targets on the medium term, but these downside targets are dominating on the short-term chart, and that's the track. So you'd have to just favor those downside targets for the moment. 45 was the critical level on emissions, and we did fall through that in the week, but we've regained it. So that's pretty good news. I don't really want to see us back below that 45 level, and if we make new lows, then these are the targets that we'll be looking to: 43, 42, 41, 41. So that's what we're going to watch for, but at the moment we've got a counter trend target. Taking a look last of all at German power. Cal 24, we're not far away now from the end of the year. In fact, the Cal 24 chart is so affected by the big spike that we saw on the daily that really you want to be looking to the 60-minute. And in fact, this data is coming from Refinitiv Icon. I prefer to use the EX data, and Updata runs on multiple data sources, of course. So this is EX data coming from Montel, could come from Bar Chart. If you've got Trayport, it could be coming from Trayport. So the first thing I'm going to do on the 60-minute chart is just press the T key and zoom out. And we see how these downside targets were given and met. And what we'll notice is that they're actually happening, or they're occurring faster than that 2-to-1 slope. So by putting that 2-to-1 on, we see there the targets, and these will be generated in real time. So we do have a little upside target at 115, but notice how those targets are met. So again, if you're trading power, you want to be looking at the 1 minute chart. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. Feel free to like and share these videos. I'm grateful for any feedback. Bye for now.